So last week I mentioned that I had transferred the B3L dashboard from Google Sheets that members had access to Dune, and so really I've kind of combined everything that I had in the Google Sheets, at least the main market metrics, into Dune in a way I think is nice and easy to consume what's going on in the market. So with this session here, I'm going to go through kind of just a bit of a market overview, go through that, and then we're going to go in and look at Parsec and look at some of the collections that I have been watching and some of the NFT TA that's been going on. There's been some interesting analysis on a few different collections. A lot of this happens fast. I know I had a really good analysis on CyberKongs. I was shaping up, and then all of a sudden it really kind of took off. CyberKongs kind of has a bit of a lower volume, so it's a little harder to act on some of those setups, but interesting nonetheless. I'm gonna go ahead and just refresh this dashboard. So with the Dune dashboards, it does do an automatic refresh once a day. Uh, if you are accessing these dashboards and you create a free account, you can also refresh the dashboard, and it will refresh it for anyone that's accesses it. So it's a really good way to kind of check it out, contribute, etc. So this will take a couple minutes to refresh here and get the latest data. Been really enjoying working through Dune. Been thinking about some different processes that I can incorporate on the collection side of things. So maybe looking at some metrics in terms of what is out there for blend loans for collections and by collection. I know that's been done in a few different places, but I think it's quite interesting to see that because sometimes collections can get a little over leveraged. And then also looking at what the accumulation type is for some holders. So what portion of NFTs have been accumulated through blur bids, which is also a really interesting metric because there's increased volatility when a whale gets too deep in blur bids on a collection, and we've seen that with doodles a bit. I think a lot of that has been washed out for the most part, but you can see that kind of as the collection is getting some traction and some progress in floor price. That's when you have these dumps that occur and really attack the floor price. So it's really helpful to know that, and I'm going to try and incorporate that into the market stats, just so it makes it a little easier to see which collections may be a bit riskier or quite healthy on not having any of those. So this should take just a little bit more to refresh. And as always, I will post this session up in Discord for those that can't make it. And I think as well, I'm going to try and do a later session here today just to see if we capture anyone later in the day. Given the fact that it is post Super Bowl Sunday, excellent result, excellent game, fun to watch, regardless of who you're cheering for. Well, I mean, 49ers fans, it would be a little bit rough there. KC fans just had their victory last year, so it is a repeat. But it was a fun game as an NFL fan. So market activity. This is part way into the day, and unfortunately makes it a little hard for me to determine where this is in the day for current day. I always look at the previous day activity. Yesterday was a strong day for volume across NFT platforms. The buyer to seller ratio is hovering in this like 90% range, which is generally speaking pretty good, but still below where I want to see it. As I mentioned last week, Solana was above one for a period of time, and I bet you something like Say would also be above one. Say is kind of a chain that I'm kind of curious and kind of interested in. Possibly has a bit of a Solana type moment here in this cycle. So just kind of paying attention to it and being well aware of what we're seeing there. Um, a bit of a low overall day on February 9th. So was that Friday? Ultimately, one of the lower buyer seller ratio days that we've seen uh, across the last 6 months, but ultimately not a huge deal. Um, Daily active sales, also a bit of a dip on that Friday, one of the lower days that we've seen. But generally speaking, we are up over the last couple months. Unique traders also down here in the last few days. So just really wanting to pay attention to these. Of course, Ethereum and mainly Bitcoin have had a bit of a surge. So in those type of events, we do see maybe a little less action on NFTs and more towards crypto, right? And it has been Bitcoin leading the way for the most part, with Ethereum also increasing, but generally speaking, very strong for both. And I think that might be part and part why we see some lower days here in terms of unique traders, etc., just due to some of that relative strength in crypto. But something to watch because they are down uh, overall for new buyers, unique traders, etc., which I think are important metrics in terms of seeing activity turn into the NFT market. And I was listening to a conversation here just before this on the Tyler did it in um, the NFT Lucky Trader show, and on there we had one of the leads of Doodles, and they were talking about how a lot of success has been in building good relationships with other NFT collections, which of course is something that is I think important to reach out and grow communities and share and cross share knowledge and learnings, but also really I think highlights where I think a lot of the strength here lately has still been very much siloed within our ecosystem. And just to, as much as we're seeing strength, I always just kind of want to temper it a bit to say that until we're seeing new entrants in the space, we're not going to see, really bull market conditions overall. So keeping an eye on that. Blue chip index, really strong in terms of USD value, up 78% over the last 6 months. And then in ETH terms, up 22%. A lot of that is pudgy driven, as well as Doodles. Last week, Doodles leading the way at 34% increase. Pudgy's at 32%. Doodles, I had a target in that for them to get back down to that 2 ETH range, and I thought that was a really nice entry for them. They didn't quite get there. I think it was like down to about 2.2, and then have seen this really big run. We're gonna dig into the Doodles chart here in a bit just to analyze it, as well as the Pudgy. I think both of them are quite interesting right now. Punk's actually leading the negative here, down 13% over the week, which is our general barometer of the NFT market. And then over the last 30 days, you see here Doodle's up 107%, Pudgy's up 96%. So very strong periods for them. CloneX up 35, which is good to see. Also kind of performing well over the last month. And then on the mid cap is up 78% over the last 6 months and 22%. So very similar to the blue chip index. And then collections leading the way over last week. Parallel avatars, Killer Bears. Killer Bears were one of the losers, I think, last week. So a bit of a up and down cycle there. And then on the last month, Kenpai Pandas leading the way at 85%. And Sappy Seals up 80%. Sappy Seals really kind of a close tie. They almost trade almost in parallel to Pudgy Penguins. So I was paying interesting close attention to them. Chart a little less strength than what I've seen in Pudgy Penguins, but you can still see over the last 30 days they've succeeded well, only just because they're the narrative of Sappy Seals and cuteness and similar to Pudgy Penguins for the most part is what drives that. And then I have a collection page here where you can sort and filter some of the various metrics on there. Like I said, I'm going to add more to this in the terms of kind of some of the unique holders for blend and blur bid acquisition, as I think that's really important. And then kind of lean into building out this part of it to highlight and filter some of these collections. So maybe something like sharp buyers over the last week to 30 days or things like that that I think are going to exist in this table here as best as I can. The query limitations on Dune is kind of my one limitation there is that they have to be executable within 2 minutes. If it isn't, then it's got to be separated out into a different query, which I could also do as well. So we'll see. But hopefully this is really good value for everyone. And then if there's something specific that anyone wants to see or have built, I can definitely do that as well. Beyond just doing these sessions, and I'm gonna try and put out some more consistent thoughts on some of the technical analysis that I'm seeing in collections, because I think that's going to be quite helpful as well. And to try and go through that, Parsec has been a really great asset for a tool on that, being able to really dive a little bit more detail on some of these metrics. So that is the market overview. I will pause. We got a couple here in the Club VC IO. Welcome again. Appreciate having you here on a weekly basis. And an NFT investors, welcome as well. Yeah, if there's a collection that you want to dig into, we can definitely do that. If not, I'm going to um, solo dive into these here. You can also put it in Club VC chat as well. And then it's actually ends up being a really nice record of what questions we've had in the past, where I can look back and say, okay, what did we talk about? The one that stands out to me the most right now is BTC puppets, and I think we had a really nice discussion on that a couple weeks ago that I think played out pretty well. Happy Monday, good Monday. How about them? How about them Mahomes? Team Mahomes. Yeah, yeah. I mean that overtime drive, just unflappable, marches down as he does anytime it matters. Um, Definitely, yeah, one of the greats. I mean, I don't I don't know if there's a lot of uncertainty on whether or not he's gonna be the great, because of just what he's doing and how he does it. So it's excellent. Yeah, yeah, young enough, and some of the plays, some of the throws he makes are unreal. No worries. I also got started a little late. Um, I was just mentioning my son had an accident downstairs, so a little bit of cleanup. Um, but that's all right. That's what they do. No, no. I mean, and most of it's. I mean, that's for the wife to figure out. So, mm, yeah. Uh-huh. Crazy. That's a pain. Um, yeah, the parsec stuff, for sure. I think parsec. Yeah, the other stuff is the on Dune. That dashboard is fully functional now, and it's just a matter of, I think, adding a few more elements to it. But I think it's a really clean way to go through and read the current market. So that's up and running and functional. In fact, I'll share it in Club VC as well. But one thing I mentioned on that is that Dune allows for free accounts, and so if you create a free account and say the dashboard hasn't been updated for a little period of time, you can go in there and click run on the dashboard, and it'll use your credits, but you get 2,500 credits, which is more than enough to refresh, say this dashboard even daily, which I have some scheduled refreshes on there and stuff like that. But it will give you up to within a half hour market metrics, which is quite handy to have. Uh, mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And then I did build a Solana one. It's not been likely refreshed in a little while, but it's interesting to look at. And then I'll probably work on building out some more stuff here as well. So just really leaning into what can be done on Dune, and then beyond that, really leaning into Parsec. Um, I I did get a premium on NFT Go. That one I'm going to let lapse, and then I did end up with a Parsec annual subscription because I think it's it's easily the best source for looking at ETH NFTTA at least. And and then it saves your analysis, which is the most important thing because you can look back and check out what you're thinking, what you're looking at. And right now I have up the Pudgy Penguins, which had a really nice setup here in this like brief consolidation down at say 16 range, and then it's shot up back up to 20. Looking for a bit of a pullback here, maybe back down to say 19. Although I mean it's possible that there's enough narrative, enough drive to push them above apes, which I think is kind of the latest attraction there. So um, they're they're probably looking, upwards of 25 here in the next, um, say, month or two. And then once that happens, mm-hmm, yeah, yeah, I really like this range here at 18, 18.5. If it can pull back there, that's a great entry. But it's got to come back that far, which I think is going to be the harder thing to see it do. But a little bit of a pullback here, I think, is really healthy for it overall. So um, I don't think there's any. I think a lot of it is actually probably North American driven still with Pudgy's social media, etc. So they might be a little bit contrary in that respect. That they haven't necessarily um, driven as hard in the Asian market. I don't know for certain. I just know that there's so much popularity from Pudgy Toys and what Luke has done here locally within North America. That's where there's some success. I'm trying to think, they had a European toy launch, one in the UK. I didn't hear of anything from uh, Asian stores, but then they also had locally at Walmart and Toys R Us, etc. So uh, I think they have just general good overall attention, and then they've been getting the airdrops as well. And I think there's expected another airdrop to come their way. The last one didn't go to Little Pudgies, so that's interesting. And if you look at Little Pudgies, they're roughly trading 1/10. And at one point, when the first run happened, Little Pudgies really got undervalued on there, and I was staring them down and looking at them as, oh, they're undervalued, and thought about an entry into Little Pudgies, and I totally whiffed on that one because like within the next day or two they nearly doubled. And so um, there's also Pudgy Rods. Um, so yes. Hmm. So yeah, they're looking quite healthy. They're probably the strongest looking collection right now. Um, are one of say three. Doodles also performing well. That chart, let's take a look. So Doodles looking again for a pullback retracement here. Maybe as to test as low as back down to 2.8. But a pullback here and then a continuation on their kind of upward trajectory. But overall, Doodles is performing well. But I would look for say 2.8 and a bounce off the previous high, which is a bit of a solid level going back to earlier in the year. It's slowed down. It's slowed down on Friday. So Friday the 9th. Let's see here. Where is the 9th? the ninth was a really large green candle, and today so far is also slow. So the big moving days on ETH is rough for NFTs, at least for Ethereum. Um, and it's the smaller days are much more helpful overall. So we could see a pullback on prices in general, given the strength that, and I mean, ETH is just being pulled along. I think because of BTC, although it is actually it's doing better than BTC today. Both just crushing it. Um, really nice overall. Yeah, well, Biden and the laser eyes tweet there, which is crazy too. Like, oof, all kinds of things looking really good for crypto right now. So, I mean, that's the attention there, and then also DeFi and altcoins. I think are going to still be the general narrative with a bit of NFT sprinkled in. Mm-hmm. Just keep going on them, eh? Right? Exactly. And then the other one I was looking at, CyberKongz looked really nice. That was a Yeah, Summer Kong's Cyber. I just combined them, but it had a really nice cup and handle. But the thing is that where it needed to define the cup and handle breakout, like that breakout happened so fast. So you could see the cup and handle like developed, and I was looking at it, and then like literally the next candle was just a rocket up. Um, so that just happened so fast, and they continued. Now they're at a bit of a resistance here at 1.2. CyberKong's trade really weird, and I'm not super familiar with the collection overall, where they have like these like grails that trade at like 12 and 25 ETH, and then they have their base trading at like 1.2, 1.1 like, kind of things. They're as low as zero point 0.9 before this breakout. And so, hmm who was that? Sorry. Okay. Yep. Okay. They what I really looking at now for CyberKongs is it's almost developing into a much larger cup and handle. Back dating all the way back to like July, and so it's created this cup pattern in this period. And so if it takes this 1.8, pulls back and kind of ranges here for a bit, we could be looking at early mid March as possibly being a really large breakout for Cyberkong. So watching that one here closely, but it's in an interesting kind of range here, where it could pull back, say back to 1 ETH from this 1.2, and if it spent some time in there, I think it could set up to be a really strong buy, or at least a good safer entry for them. And so that one's really, I think, the most interesting chart. And then the other one I kind of liked here, actually very similar, bit of a possible cup and handle development on Kenpai Pandas. Um, Although I would have thought the breakout was coming on the last candle here, and it didn't. Um, so it's interesting. Maybe not quite enough on the cup there, but either way, that one's one I've been watching a bit here. Kind of range bound a little bit. So watching that. But this big red candle here is um a little bit more bearish to what I was seeing there before. So what else? Azuki I think is Azuki to me is the chart that tells the market. in the terms of like whether or not they break out or they continue or they break down and almost the apes are very similar there. I think overall both of them are quite at a key levels, and I see a bit of a breakout happening on this candle right now, which is good. That's positive. So Zuki up, coming right out of this like long term um, trend that's really been developing all the way back to the summertime. And so if it can break out there, there is a couple levels of points of resistance um, just above. So 6.5 ETH, I think, break above that, then it's all the way back up to about 7.2. But this little range here, I think, is if it can get above that in this candle, we're looking really good. And so curious too, because like, with ETH ripping, that's gonna push pressure down on uh ETH NFT prices. So they, if ETH rips, then it makes a lot of sense that NFT prices will pull back for a period of time as that happens. So it's kind of like a it's always wild how those macro kind of narratives play into what happens in these charts and how it always lines up just magically, right? So it's this is the one that I think is the one to watch in terms of whether or not um, NFTs are possibly in this like uh, upward movement. There, like I said, I've gone through the ones that look the most positive. There's a lot of charts that look very similar to Azuki and almost look bearish overall. And with ETH ripping, uh, that will happen with NFTs in general because they'll get repriced in USD, even though they're still an ETH asset. And as a result, people will be looking at lowering prices just to still accept profits overall at a lower price. So the one question is though, over this last 4 months, November through February, is have enough people that have you know held on for a duration of time for better prices kind of sold off, and therefore the people that are holding now are more likely to hold through an ETH run. That's kind of where we're at now to try and figure out. Wow, yeah, the Zuki chart is one to watch here. They could stay range bound, in this 6.4 to 6.6 range. It's quite possible. But this long term triangle looks like it's broken. And I'm not sure if you can see this as well, IO, if you would tend to agree with this analysis. So the support starts all the way back to June on the upper bound, and then on the lower bound, it is August. But there's, like I said, there's more support resistance just above it as well. So it's yeah, you could go. Mm-hmm. It's that 6.65 range. I think they can push up above that, and then it's above the cloud there, and then you're good all the way back up to say 7.2, and then yeah, yeah. So there's a bit to go through, but it's this long term um, flag here is quite interesting, but it's still. below on the RSI, and the MACD is also below. And so I was thinking a breakdown, but it's above here briefly. So still a couple hours on this candle, and then we'll see how it goes into the next day as well. The weekly might be interesting to look at. And you can do very similar. You can do the same kind of analysis on NFT Go for free. So it is available there. You can't save it, yeah. But you can get essentially the same charts. It won't show the sales, but it will give you the the same as Magically. Magically will do the same. NFT Go I think gives you a bit longer time horizon on it. Um, so both work for free, but Parsec will save your analysis, um, which is the best part. So on the weekly, there's still a couple days left on that candle, but yeah, it's a bit of an interesting spot there for Azuki. Maybe they got some big news that they're going to come out with here based on this chart. That is 8.44. 6.78, which is right in that key range for them. And that was Elemental launch that went so poorly. They went all the way down to 5.29 there in that second candle. So that's an interesting one. What other ones look good? Mutants, I was taking a look at. I think mutant. Oh yeah, the flippening is going to happen. I think it's that's the one thing with penguins and how they may not pull back that much, because I think there's going to be a big drive for them to get above apes. So 22 versus about two overall. So quite quite interesting. That could drive Pudgies above, but then if they do push right now, I think it's above and then back below right away. Mm-hmm. Yeah. um. So apes have broken down right here. Um. So quite a bearish chart. Although maybe one of the saving parts is that they might be a bit oversold at this point. Um. But yeah, it's they could be looking like they could go as low as 20, 22, which I mean they're pretty much there right now. Um, no, it's I mean right now we're waiting on Dookie Dash V2, but it just doesn't seem to really move the needle. And there's just go ahead on Dookie Pass. Yeah, actually I don't. Um, Sewer Pass. Yes, there it is. But that's not it though. Oh, it's void. Mm-hmm. Good question. Um, Ape up really well today. But below the, what is that? The 200 or no 100 EMA. But ApeCoin doesn't look too bad. But it's mostly riding with the everything else. Bitcoin pulls everything else up kind of narrative. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Dookie Dash is playable by anyone that's in the ecosystem. I know they you required the sewer pass before, but that sewer pass got redeemed, and that was done for. Was that done for the and that's one of the challenges. Their ecosystem's gotten so confusing. It used to be just apes, dogs, mutants, and away you go, right? But then the other side came out, and the other side still makes a lot of sense. But then they had the I can't believe I can't remember this stuff now. The the not the mechas, but the their little robots kind of thing, right? And wasn't that part of the sewer pass and how you were able to level them up? Yeah, heavy metal. There you go. So the heavy metals were what you basically your Dookie pass based on your outcome of how well you performed gave you a different degree of heavy metal, and the heavy metals haven't necessarily performed that well. I think they're probably what half an ETH. So I mean, a lot of for them is what kind of comes together with the other side. Mutants looking a little bit better than apes, at least holding the support here, but also in a very key couple of days here for what's possible for breakout or move down. So both of them are kind of curious, especially the way things are setting up with Pudgy Penguins. Does Pudgy pass them and then that causes a bit of a sell off for apes? I don't know. Um, Pudgy seem like the safer hold right now with everything that's really positive momentum wise. Let's take a look at Nobody. Not a lot of history on Nobody. Art's interesting, but I think that the childish art is something that doesn't play quite as well. Even though everything is pretty nice. I don't know a lot about the collection overall, but just kind of this downtrend that they've had all the way through. If we look at it in 12-hour, yeah, that's just trending down, and could push as low as zero point 0.3 here before you get any real hope. Maybe there's support at zero point 0.4, but yeah, trending down. Cool Cats artifact. I don't know if there's anything. What DGod's had a bit of a change here on their chart. Yeah, I just spend every night just kind of going through these, flipping through them, taking a look, seeing what kind of stands out. Um, so DGod's had a bit of a run up, and then they pulled back. This is kind of from that the warp um, portal there, but they are looking like they're dropping below support at 2.9, and still DGods and Utes have outstanding art. Um, I'm just I'm just not sure how. Yeah, well, that's it, right? I don't that impacted him so much, and at the time it seemed like such a positive move because everything was happening on ETH. But it's kind of gone where this narrative for Solana is gotten so good, and DGods and Utes haven't really ever felt like they fit in on ETH per se. Um, and they have what I would consider, for me, the best art in the space. Um, hmm yeah, but I don't know if the team is. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Well, and the fact that now Solana is having more momentum. What's the easiest way to get more Sol in your wallet? Sell off your Ute or Decod and move over to Solana, right? So that kills the vibes a bit. So yeah, it's tough. It's a tough one to see because like I said, uh, at the end of the day, you're getting art, if anything, with your NFT, and DeGods and Utes have, in my opinion, the best art. So watching to see how they go, but it's still a bit bearish overall. Airdrop pump there, but yeah, and right now the narrative uh, against Frank is is down, right? Sentiment on Frank is down, and until that changes, um, you know, that's where that collection, both the collections are going to probably reside right now. They're kind of the last one to get a bit of a move, but it didn't hold. What else? Artifact, CloneX, one that's performed pretty well. I mean, they were down at one, or even just below one, um, mid January, so about a month ago. So they've performed well over that period of time, but they're in this tougher range at 1.3. That I think 1.3 down to 1.2. They've kind of been in that range there for a bit. And so they're another one that feels like they need a bit of news. Although overall, one of the more positive looking charts that we've looked at here today. And so they're pushing the upper bound, 1.3. Maybe you can get it back down to 1.2. A, B, C breakout, maybe something there. Could. I don't know how to, like, what would you say? A there, and then B, C, D up. That's a little tight, but there's a bit there for them, but it only goes up to 1.3, and then they got to break above 1.3. But Artifact could be, or Clone X, you know, 1.5 range all the way up to, say, yeah, 1.5. I guess it would be your next point of resistance. Maybe a bit of resistance on the moving average as well at 1.4. But that one's one of the more positive ones that we've seen. Cool Cats, they recently had their run, and they've kind of, man, they were all the way down to 0.56 uh, mid January. So they've done well. That pump from 0.56, it was a 2x up to 1.2, 1.3. They're now trending downwards, possibly back to zero point 0.8 to hold here. And this little short term, there's good support there. Yeah, I would put a 0.8 is a pretty solid level for them. And then, of course, you're going to get resistance at those 0.9 and 1 ETH. But a little bit more bearish on Cool Cats. I would say there you're probably looking back to 0.8 on them. Um, what else? I mean, it's Some ladies is in like a really wide range of support that I've drawn in here. Maybe that was that back to the weekly. Doesn't even go that far back on my chart. Majestic Action Heroes. I have not. Oh no. I have, for the most part, avoided a lot of the gaming narrative. I think we need a break. I mean, and the one that did break through a bit, uh, Nifty Island doesn't necessarily, it's not a NFT collection or anything like that. You get rewards on it, but like so it's done a bit different than a full on game. But there are games out there that are playable and doing well. Um, Manifold maybe Manifold no. There is a few out there that have performed. Moonbirds or not moonbirds, killer bears. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. You need one to hit, and then that becomes the uh the narrative. I like this killer bears chart. They were. They're like I always like to call them the sister collection to Quirkies, which is so many crossover holders. But they were kind of one that was a little bit of a no-brainer post uh, Quirky's surge there. That killer bears are the next kind of thing. Um, but they're in a bit of a breakout here, uh, especially when they cross the 1 ETH mark there, as they're range bound in between 1 ETH and 0.75. And so now that they've broken above that, um, and now they're in this really nice uptrend. And I mean, they were high as what 4.5 ETH back in the day. So like, there's a lot of room for them to go yet. And just like seeing some of the content that they put out, etc. Like, this is one team that's you know doing more than I think most people realize. And it's one of their challenges is collection size. They're I think are they fully going to Solana now with all their collections? I know their Killer Bits have gone to Solana, but is Killer Bears now going to Solana? I think I heard a bit on that, but I'm not sure if the main collection is going over there. Almost a bit of a inverse head and shoulders on this too, no? Not a very large head, but so I mean, they they look they look. This is a pretty strong chart here. Maybe a bit of a pull back to 1.1 and then continuation upward. Um, but yeah, I like this a lot. So maybe a short-term pullback, and then a continuation on this trend. It looks pretty good. That's that to me is the best looking one I was seeing. Um, Cyberkongs as well. I like a lot what's developing there on a longer time horizon, early March. Nice. So what I would look at here on this one is a bit of a back, maybe as low as this support, and then another leg up. I have to see if we get a bit of a fractal here on on a pullback here. I mean, it could very well continue to move a bit here. And I don't know where we see previous resistance. If there is any, might be better to look at the. Oh, I'm on a 12-hour. Sheesh. When did I switch to 12-hour? There we go. Maybe that's why some of those weren't giving me as much time horizon as I was looking for. So it looks like 1.75. Bit of a resistance there. Support around 1.55. 56. Oops. 3.3. 1.35 maybe in the next kind of target range there. But gapped out in between, so it could be as high as 1.35 before pullback or short-term pullback here. That's that's where I'd look at killer bears. And then yeah, I mean, look back to earlier in 2023, they were 4 ETH and higher at one point. So definitely some room to move on them. Mhm. I didn't. I exited Moonbirds. Um, so I might come back in with a something like a mythic, or something a little lower entry. So one of the biggest parts that I really like to have with Moonbirds is having access to any content that NFT Stats is putting out within the Discord. I wasn't seeing anything from him. Um, he hadn't done anything since early December, and hadn't shown any indication that he was going to be back to his 3 videos a week. But that to me is, I mean, to me, Sam is Moonbirds. He provides so much for the space in general, and any utility that he can provide within Moonbirds is so vital to, I think, the success of Moonbirds. And of course, Jesse and what he can do and etc. But it's a bit of a wait and see for me. I mean, and of course, the other part of it was that they were caught in this range bound. I sold. Oops. I sold Moonbirds to get into um, Pizza Ninjas, which did not play out well at all for me. I should have been into, say, Bitcoin puppets or something like that. So Pizza Ninjas was a big L that I then exited on one of their cycles to just hold Bitcoin and ride Bitcoin, which I think has played out much stronger. And so that's kind of where I'm at now, and waiting out uh, where everything's at. Utes, same thing, got liquidated uh, the pump that they went through, and so but community wise, etc. Until they get back to that kind of creator content narrative, and it's tough because like you can only do so much when you have your brand built around something else, and so you work with what your current brand is, and you can't necessarily tap into the community around that. So that's also a bit challenging. But looks like Moonbird's back to possibly one ETH here, and they're just caught in this tight range of 1.15 down to one ETH. Maybe they hold. No, they're already below kind of the mid range on that. And I think really this channel has has held more so this tighter range, even though I drew it in below. It's held this tight range here. And so that's where they're kind of in right now. Um, and there's nothing on the near horizon to show otherwise for Moonbirds. So, but Mythics, great entry, especially if there's that SAM utility. Then I would definitely be into that. But I haven't found anywhere to confirm or deny where or what's available for his content, because I when he was doing his daily on YouTube, that was a must watch for me, and inspiration in general, right? So I miss those. Any other collections? What's on other radars here? Good question. I need to go through and look at um my mint sections here. I I think we're due for some hyped up mint, right? There's been some on Bitcoin. Quantum Cats, that's been the latest best mint that's happened. But these V1 punks are underperforming, but they're kind of they're such a weird collection. Are they punks? Are they not punks? Are they Providence? Are they not? I've thought several times of picking one of these up, but haven't. Um, and then when I don't, then they go on these really good runs, and then they're back. But there's the supply is held by a few that kind of control the price a little bit more. So, but I always thought that the narrative of punks performing well, these kind of go with it. But when you look at this chart, it doesn't really say that's the case, given where punks are at versus everything else. So other side codas. Mm. They're near all-time lows here. 2.7. Pretty pretty rough decline here over the last few days. A bit of a rally from 3 up to 3.6, and then they just been down, down, down. So hopefully a bouncing and back up, but yeah, but there's a fair bit of charts that don't look super strong right now. And that's where I wonder if that, ETH pump is gonna kind of play into it. Mochaverse has probably been the strongest side of gaming and everything else. This trend is super strong. Oops, that did not work out very good. Down there. Oh, and it looks like they're breaking that trend on the downside right now. Well, so they've just gone below this kind of uptrend right now. So that's kind of interesting on Mochaverse. Might be in for a bit of a pullback, say 3.5 ETH range. But they've been on a cook for a while. So since October, point 0.6 all the way up to 4 ETH. Just wild. And as high as 5 ETH actually recently. Checks in a nasty little bit of a down run here. Just announced, but I think that claim process for ACK is about to happen here on them, which will become probably the strongest collection within checks, or sorry, within with no Pepin. This is checks. Never mind. The checks claim is happening, or snapshot's going to happen here for the Bitcoin checks. That will be one of the top collections on ordinals, I think. I don't know if it gets to OCB level, but it'll be probably something like where you see like a possibly like as much as a half ETH, or sorry, a half Bitcoin for them. But to get one, to be airdropped one, you have to have a single check, and those are going in the 15K range, or sorry, 15 ETH range. Yeah, checks are in this. Sugartown might be I mean, that's the one game that I'm most excited about, just being Zynga, but nice little recent breakout here. It's got a ways yet to go. Mm-hmm. So bounce off or kind of a bounce off this 0.25, a dip below and then back up above. Um, oops. Hate when I choose the wrong element here. 3-2. Maybe where they go next. Or it could just continue. I mean, it's maybe still in that channel. Yeah. So they might be. I could see them bouncing off this current level back down to 0.25. And this downtrend, interesting spot though for them. But yeah, this is the collection that when things really get heated up, I mean, you could see it back up to half an ETH. Pretty easy here as that game rolls on. I'll take a look at potatoes and then I'm gonna call it unless there's anything else we want to look at. So a bit bearish on potatoes here as well. Maybe back down to 1.7. At 1.8 right now. Collection's pretty and holding pretty steady, all things considering in NFTs. Kind of breaking below a bit of support there. One more. You guys got to call it though. One more. Come on, give me one more. That's actually a really good one. And I had done some analysis on it, so Quirkies is a really good one to look at. So tapped right off of, just about off of. Maybe if I adjust this drawing here a little more tight, could be on the right spot. These are super hard to adjust these Fibonacci's. But I think it's at a really nice bounce level here. Now, I don't know if this is overextended and if that's maybe possible. And if it is, then you're looking back to if you get into this range here, tap off of 1.4, which seems so low to where they were 2 ETH back to 1.4, and then back up. So yeah, maybe I don't know how to read this one here. I think entry anywhere in this range of 1.4 is a really nice spot if you can get in. It's yeah, it's almost at 5. Yeah. So 5 to 0.61, that's where you really want to put it. And you get this lower support here. Mm-hmm. The 618 is right on that trend line. So that's a nice spot right there. Yeah, 1.33. So yeah. And so Quirky's right now 1.75. Is that reflected on here? Right, so this shows 1.5, but their floor price right now shows 1.75. How is that? How is that? This I wonder where that was pulling this parsec based, and maybe parsec's based off of recent sales versus listings, which recent sales is the way you have to draw it out anyways, right? So if we had some recent sales, 1.455 hours ago. So that's why it's there. Oh, um, X2Y2 or Uniswap. Uniswap? Or is there something beyond that? No worries. I wonder how these candles, what the formulation they use here, because like, look, there's a whole bunch of sales that happened around 1.25, which are really low, and that was because they had some WETH bots and stuff like that that was plaguing them for a little bit, from what I've seen on the timeline. Um, if I scroll back, it's not there. Yeah, like that candle's not representative of really. I mean, I see some sales here, and then there's a big dip. Like, really, shouldn't this candle not have gone all the way down into the 1 point? Yeah. And then you have this one here, and there's no candle. I guess the candle's above that, and there's like, if you look at it, you got sale there, and you got a few up here. So is it like an average? The average doesn't make sense either. I wonder how that's doing that. Because I would suspect it would just be off of the floor sales, and of course, a collection with less sales, the TA I think maybe breaks down a bit more, maybe a little less reliable. Um, mm-hmm. On the weekly, the weekly's right in that same kind of scenario. Yeah, right. Yeah, because their floor price is 1.75. So then that changes I mean, it just about got to the point 0.5 mark there on that move, and then it fits well. I mean, if you adjust it on the weekly, oh, jeez, it always grabs the wrong element. It's always. And you get a little bit of a tighter range, but that range doesn't fit on the weekly. So okay, well, we're gonna leave it there. I am going to post up the video. I'll see how my day is going, but I think I want to try and do another one here in a couple hours, um, just to see who else is around and maybe chat some more. But if not, then have a good one. Happy Monday. Yeah. Cheers. Yes, for sure. Sounds good. No worries. Take care. Okay. Bye.